Today at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen, we're going to make a classic, but we're going to make it in a gluten and dairy-free way, and that is date squares. My mom made date squares all the time, so much so when I was a kid that I got sick of them. But lately, after I became an adult and much into my adult years, did I rediscover them and fall back in love with them. My recipe for date squares, in addition to being gluten and dairy free, has a special ingredient. And so come on in and join me and find out what that is, and a great way to make these classic squares. All right, so making the date squares, the first thing we're going to need to work on is the filling. So we're going to start with dates. We got some brown sugar, lemon juice, a little bit of lemon juice, and ordinarily making date squares, you're going to need that. It calls for water. I don't do that. I use orange juice instead, but you can use water. The full recipe can be found on the Dietary Restriction Kitchen website, of course, and that will be linked in the description. Also, you need a little bit of baking soda. Anyway, first off, we're going to deal with our dates. And if you can't find pitted dates, you can still use whole ones. What we're going to have to do is we need a full 2.5 cups of chopped up dates. So here's your date, right? So we're going to chop into it, open it up, and there's the pit. Okay, so we're going to get rid of those guys. We're not going to keep them. And you can and this is going to be sticky, messy fun, okay? Because you're going to having to cut them up like that. So yeah, I'm not going to subject you to me cutting all of these up, everything I need, but we're going to come back and I will stop the video and cut up all my dates. I need fully 2 cups up to here, and then I need this whole thing filled up with the chopped up dates. So you can see it's going to take me a while. I will come back when we're nearly there and we'll carry on. Okay, so I just put the light on over top so I could see better what I'm doing with the cutting these up. So as you can see, I've taken the pits out of these ones. I just sort of do this. So I've got the 2 cups. Now I'm working on the 1/2 cup, and we're, almost there. This should give us enough. Yeah, out of these ones that I've got here. Oh, come on. I know, and your knife gets very sticky. Ow. I poked myself. That's what I need this morning, is to poke myself. No, okay. I don't think no, I didn't break skin, so didn't break the skin, so we're okay. So yeah, and it gets to be a very sticky affair, as you can see. So I may have a little bit more than I need here, but anyway. Yeah, as you can see, it's a very sticky situation. They're very sticky on the inside. I like to buy a bigger thing of, bigger container of the dates. The reason why, because if you get a small container, you may have enough for the recipe. I mean, it seems like it's going to be enough, but if you have to, if they're whole dates like this as well, I mean, then the thing is, if they're whole dates, then once you take the pits out and chop up, it's not going to be enough. So I'd like to get a bigger package of dates, and then I know that I have enough. Okay, so that's definitely, 1/2 cup. I'm just gonna cut these in, and even if it gives me a little bit more, that's fine. It'll just be a bit more filling, right? I just now that I've cut into these dates, then yeah, so there we go. So then, after we do these cutting of the dates, which is a real, like I say, I have gotten up extra early this morning. It is, well, geez, what time is it now? Almost 4 o'clock in the morning. But, to do this, I was going to do this, chop up the dates part, before going to bed. As you can see, it's very sticky on that. But it didn't end up happening. So here I am doing it. And so there's still a bunch of dates there. You could use them for something else. You could just have a date. Just be careful of the pit if you still have the pits in it. Okay, so the next stage of things is that we are going to get the filling ready. Now we need a saucepan, right? A fairly decent size saucepan. And in the saucepan, we're going to put the dates in first off. Oh. Okay, see, they're a little bit sticky. I'm a little bit stuck together there. And that. So we got lots of dates in there. And then we're going to get a cup of orange juice. I've had my orange juice in a container. You can use water, but this is my secret, is to use orange juice instead. The reason why I had it in this container, because any orange juice in my house, if my daughter knows we have orange juice, it's not safe from her, right? And I won't be able to use the orange juice because she will drink it all on me. So then we have the orange juice, and we need a bit of lemon juice. Oh, I'm going to need something to measure that out with. Just one second. We need 2 tablespoons of brown sugar at this part. Yeah. I know, because there's 2 parts to this. There's the filling part, and there's the, the base and topping, right? So the base and topping is the same thing. So about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Just kind of pop them into there. And we'll need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice as well. So on top of the orange juice, yeah, or water if you're just going to do it with water. I find I like to do it with orange juice because it gives a nice, it's a je ne sais quoi. People, go, oh, these are really good, and there's something else there. And it's like, yeah, because it's not just done with water. So we're going to mix that up. We're going to go to the stove because we're going to cook this down a little bit. And at that point, when we're cooking down, then we add our baking soda. Next step. All right, so we have the dates, the orange juice, a little bit of, lemon juice, and also brown sugar on the stove, right? So here we have it on. We need to let that get to a bit of a boil here. And then once it boils, then we're going to add a half a teaspoon of baking soda to it, and then let it simmer for 5 minutes. So that's what, like I say, you can find the complete recipe on the DRK website, Dietary Restriction Kitchen website, and it will be linked in the description for this video. So yeah, come on, boil. So yeah, I'm telling you, date squares remind me so much of my mom, I can't tell you. My mom made date squares so often it wasn't even funny. Me and my siblings got tired of her having date squares. Like, I was like, oh, not date squares again. But then many years later, and I hadn't eaten a date square in years, and then a friend of mine had made some, and I was like, I had one. I'm like, oh, okay, right? I was over at her place for coffee or something, and she had some she had made, and I was like, oh, this is so good. I had forgotten about this, right? I'd forgotten about it. And then she gave me her recipe, and yes, her recipe was using water instead of, like, for me, I use orange juice, but she used water, and it was good. I mean, her recipe was good and everything, but I thought, hey, and the first time I made it myself. I made it with the water and instead, and then I'm like, why am I just using just plain old water? So I'm thinking, maybe I could use orange juice in it instead. So but anyway, so I find it gives it just that little extra little flavor, but you don't have to. You could just use water if you wanted. Okay, but that's sort of mine. And we're doing these, of course, going to be doing this gluten and dairy free. So the gluten and the dairy issue is not even at this point. It'll be for the topping and the base and the topping. So we're going to use gluten-free ingredients and dairy-free ingredients for that, which is very simple. Okay, so it's starting to have a little bit of movement there. I'm going to just let it get up to the boil. The reason why we need to simmer, bring these to a boil and simmer them is because, well, we need these dates to start to break down and start to break down, right? And because at this stage they are very super chewy. We want that to make we want them to cook down. We want them to get sort of melted, you know what I mean, and kind of melt into and create kind of like a sauce, because right now they're not, right? They're just chunks of dates, okay? So that's what we need to have happen. So yeah, are we having any boiling action now? A little bit, yeah, a little bit. So I'm going to let that kind of get to a boil, and then we're going to measure off our very little bit. It's just a little bit. Now this is going to be fun. This is fun. Watch this. I mean, it'll foam up. So we got the crazy foam. So I'm going to turn that down to about like halfway between high and low. And then we're going to let that go for about 5 minutes, just simmering it. We'll give it a good little stir every now and then. I know, it just looks like foamy mess right now, right? It'll settle down. And yeah, we're going to give it a little bit of a, I know it looks like a kid's, experiment you do with kids, sort of a chemistry experiment at home, a home chemistry experiment is what it looks like right now. But yeah, and so it's all foamy, and that further helps to break those dates down a little bit, right? So yeah. Create it like almost like you're creating a sauce, right? Well, obviously you're creating a filling, but yeah, so we need that to kind of simmer. So we want a little bit of bubbly action, right? Keep that moving a little bit. Yeah, and so that's what we're gonna do. I've just got my timer on for 5. I'm moving it a little bit because I don't want it to kind of stick to the bottom. So now that's starting to look a little bit better, right? So there we go. Oops, am I spilling over? I am. Of course I am. Of course I am. Well, that happens in my kitchen all the time. Because I'm a messy, I'm a messy cook. Messy cook and baker, I tell you. There, get it off a little bit. Don't do this at home. Or be very careful when you do. Okay, so there you can see the foaminess has gone down a bit, and you can see that those are starting to break down. So yeah, the dates are breaking down. It's looking a lot saucier, so you can see. So you think, oh, that'll never work. That'll never. It seems like something that would never, ever actually work, but it does. So very simple ingredients, really. I mean, the biggest ingredient, of course, is the dates, and probably the ones that's going to be cost the most, because dates aren't actually cheap at the store, unfortunately. But you can make this as a treat for yourself once in a while. So yeah, if you're on a budget, right? But it's kind of like, okay, let's make some, but something, because this isn't a difficult recipe. But it gives you that. So you can see that's definitely looking more saucy there. We've got a couple more minutes. I'm going to turn that right down to low now, because I don't think we need it too high. There. Okay. It's heaving. It's making all kinds of sounds. Just 1 second. Just putting my baking soda away because I don't leave things be. As you can see, I'm like, I want to get in there. I want to stir things. The one thing I'm not good at is making pastry. I mean, my mother tried to teach me how to make pastry, and, yeah. She's like, you're working it too much. I'm good at bread, mind you. Now, one of the things I'm going to be doing on Dietary Restriction Kitchen as well, on the DRK YouTube channel, is make sourdough bread, gluten-free, with own sourdough, like sourdough starter and everything. So that's going to be a big adventure, and I don't even know how it's going to turn out, and it's going to be like, I'm determined to do it. I'm determined to have that adventure and take you guys along with me, so stay tuned for that. It's coming. I'm just getting my supplies together, and yeah, that's going to be more of a vlog style. But okay, so that we're almost ready. Another minute. We want that to see that's quite saucy now, right? And that breaks them down. And then what we're going to do afterwards is take it off the heat and let that cool a little bit while we're making the base and topping. So there we go. Like, see how that started like dates, and now it just looks like, well, it looks like, I know it looks like slop, but it's going to be tasty slop. Okay? Yeah, tasty slop. So yeah. So I hope you're doing well. I know it's coming, it's into November now, and the days are shorter, the nights are longer, a lot less light, And I don't know, this time of the year makes me just want to hibernate. You know, I'm not at my best at this time of the year. If Christmas wasn't in the middle of this time, I don't know. I think I would probably just hibernate, or want to do that anyway. That's my instinct. I'm like a bear that way. I'd rather just, you know, be up when there's sun, you know. I just don't like that it's dark after 7 a.m. and gets dark before 6 p.m. I don't like that. Okay, so our timer's going off. I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to take this off of the heat, and we're going to let that sit off the heat while we make our topping and base. Okay, so while our filling for the date squares is cooling, we're going to make the base topping. So, you know, we're going to use half of it for the base, half of it for the topping. So we need our rolled oats, or these are quick oats. You could use quick oats too. Rolled or quick oats. And then we're going to need gluten-free 1-to-1 flour blend. Okay, so we have that in there. We need brown sugar, so I've already measured that off. Like I say, the full recipe will be on the Dietary Restriction Kitchen website. The link is in the description for this video. Please, I encourage you to go to the website and check it out. We're going to mix that up together. I get my hands in there. The other thing we need is a little tiny bit of baking powder. So I've got that there, just a really tiny little bit. So, yeah, and we're going to get that. You go, wow, that's dry. Well, yeah, we got something coming that's going to moisten that all up. Okay, so I'm just doing that because I'm trying to get the chunky bits of brown sugar from being so, well, chunky, right? So mixing that together. And then we've got our vegan butter. Okay, so that butter, I use the term loosely, right? So it's like a vegan, it's like a vegan version of butter. So it has absolutely no dairy in it. So I've kind of softened it in my microwave. So, you know, that's why it's like that. And we're going to get that mixed in. And so we're going to mean like it's going to, you know, come together as a topping. This I don't want to put my hands in. Well, I could, you know. I've got a spatula to kind of help me out here, right? Help me out, spatula. Help me out. Okay, there we go. I could get my hands in it, but, you know. So what we're going to need to do, we're going to have a, you know, use half of the topping or half of the stuff for the base, and then put the filling over top of that, and then put the other half of this on top. But in a minute. Here, yeah, I'm going to get my hands in here. Because you know how I am with that. I'm just like, yeah, no. You know. At least to help. Because otherwise I feel like I'm going to be here all day. You know. My hands are clean. My hands are clean. So, I love getting into things with my hands. So you can see where I'm naturally like, oh, you'd be great at bread, because you're just in there like, I know. I cannot even stand to not do it with my hands a lot of the time. So you can see it. You can pack that, you know, right? Yeah. You want it to be, okay, it's a little bit crumbly, right? But it can be packed. You see when it, you know, like that. So you could make a ball out of that, right? You know, so you want it sort of that consistency, because we're going to be putting half of it into our pan. So you grab my pan, because I have it ready and I have it greased. Okay, so the greased pan, there you go. See, I've still got my hands, but we're going to take about half of that. Okay, see if I got enough. There. See if that works. Okay, get my spatula here. And we're going to, actually, you know what? No, not even with the spatula. I find the hands are just, I know, fingers and hands are just the best way to go here. You know, you're making this with love. With clean hands and with love, right? Okay, I'm going to add a little bit on that corner. Whoa, no. So we want to be packed quite tight for the base. Like we want that to be quite packed in there. I mean, you know, we want to firmly pack this down for the base, okay? Because this is, you know, when you cut the date squares later, after they've been baked and cooled, and you're cutting it, you need this base to stand up, right? You need this base to not come apart, you know, right? Because yeah, otherwise, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so this stage, it needs to be firmly packed in there. I feel like my corner here is not good enough. And this corner over here, so I'm just taking a piece and just go, okay, in, you know, yeah. So you can see see, I'm taking my clean hand now and packing that in. Okay, so then we've got still a good portion here. I'm gonna add just a little bit more in this corner. Okay, there. So now we've got our base in there. Okay, now we're going to take our filling, which is cooled slightly. It's still warm, right? And we're going to flop that in. So what I'm going to do, it's still quite warm, but that's okay. And it's cooling a little bit. Well, because before I even cooked my dates down and everything, I had gotten my ingredients ready for the base and the topping. So it doesn't, you know, right, didn't take me as long on camera to do because I did some of the other stuff, right? Does that make sense? So, you know, your filling will probably be a little bit cooler than mine is right now, but I find it works okay, even if it's a little bit warmish at this point. Okay, so we're just going to spread that. Sorry if I've got the back of this pot in your view here. Okay, so there. See, it's really saucy. It's almost spreadable. You could almost spread it. You could spread it on toast at this point. Hey, you know, you could do that. You could just make hey, why not? You could make like a date spread. I mean, that's another thing you could do, you know, that you could have like as a breakfast compote or something like that. Or you could, you know, maybe have it with ice cream or something like that after dinner or something. You know, well, ice cream. I say that if you could eat ice cream, but a dairy-free ice cream, that could work. Okay, so there's the rest of the topping on top, and then we're just going to gently pat now. You know, we're not going to go squish, you know, right? We're just going to like gently pack it down. Just a little tiny bit. Okay, and then that is going to go in the oven to bake on the center oven rack. So you have to position your oven rack in the center of your oven for this, right? So, all right. And if you're worried about it spilling over, it shouldn't. There shouldn't be enough, like there's enough, you know, there's enough lead here that we shouldn't have a problem. But if you're worried about it at all, put a cookie sheet underneath of the pan, right, in your oven. And that will, you know, soothe your conscience about that, or, you know, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's just like, see? So there we go. We're going to bake that. And then we're going to give it a try. All right, so I've just taken this out of the oven. It was baking for 40 minutes. You can go as high as 45 minutes. Middle oven rack. So put your oven rack in the center of the oven and then bake it for 40 to 45 minutes. And now we got to let that cool. And once they're cool, we'll cut it into 16 squares. And we'll give it a try. But I'm definitely going to have to wait a while before I do that, because you don't want to cut and try to serve this out prematurely. So it really, really needs to cool before you do that. Absolutely. So, but it smells wonderful. Not for the first time. I wish that I could share the smells of the kitchen with you on the channel. Somebody do me a solid and please invent that, because that would be amazing to have that. Can you imagine? Of course, you know, there'd be all kinds of scents on YouTube at that, and not all of them probably good if they had that. But anyway, I cannot wait to try it out, and we will do that in a little while. All right, so let's give the date squares a try. I actually took the one out of the corner. It got a little, here I'll step back, a little bit messy because the corner one, especially that first one you get out, is going to be kind of messy, but it's still really good. So I mean, it tastes good. It just doesn't, it looks like a bit of a mess, but And with those dates, you get that little bit, just a little bit of that orange flavoring with the dates, and just enough for you to go, there's something else about those dates. It's very good. It's like an update on the classic. And it is gluten and dairy free. And so I really hope you give it a try. Whether you're using orange juice, my secret ingredient, or you just do it with water instead. It's a classic. Can't go wrong with that. Make this lovely with a cup of tea or coffee or hot chocolate. Right when you're getting together with people, instead of a typical coffee cake or something. And so I really encourage you to give it a try. If you haven't made them before, or you haven't made them in a long time, why not give my recipe a try? And you can find the full recipe on the Dietary Restriction Kitchen website, and the link is in the description. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Hope to see you next time here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. Bye for now.